There are so many things that I wish somebody would have told me as a first time mama to help me avoid so many difficulties and so many things that I would later regret after I started to learn more about the birthing process, learn more about babies, and learn about what was actually best for my body and for my baby's body. Now I am a doula and I have so much more insight, so much more knowledge, and so much more experience with three of my own babies and so many babies that I have helped bring earthside that I want to talk to you about 5 things that I would have done differently if I knew better as a first time mama. Welcome to my channel, or welcome back to my channel. My name is Chanel. I am a doula, and I've taken everything that I've learned from my emergency C-section all the way to my home birth, where our son was literally born in our driveway. And I've taken those experiences and helped families go from a place of feeling very overwhelmed and anxious to getting empowered and educated and prepared to have a very beautiful, empowering, and positive birth experience. So if that sounds like something that you're interested in, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below so that you stay up to date with all of the resources that you need to succeed in birth and motherhood. So this video is going to be a little bit different than videos that I've done in the past, which are very informative, very educational, but I just want to sit down and talk to y'all about my own personal experience from having 3 kids, having 3 very distinct birth experiences. Like I mentioned before, I've had a C-section in a hospital that included an epidural. I've had a VBAC that was in a birth center, and I've also had a home birth, the last 2 being unmedicated births. And there's so many things that I wish that I would have known as a first-time mama, and I want to share those things with you in hopes that it'll help you be a little bit more prepared than I was as a first-time mama. Now, the first thing that I wish I would have known and that I would have done differently if I knew the first time around is that I would have had my baby come skin to skin with me immediately. Now, of course, I did not expect that I was going to have an emergency C-section, but one thing that I did not realize at that time was that babies who are born via C-section, unless they were unresponsive or there was something medically wrong with them, could absolutely come skin to skin with me or skin to skin with you right after birth. There have been so many moms who I've seen who have had C-sections, my clients included, and like just things that I've seen on the internet where, and literal videos of gentle cesareans of moms who literally pulled their babies and were the first hands that their babies touched out of their belly straight onto their chest. In my situation, my baby went straight from my belly to the warmer into a swaddle, and then minutes later, probably, I mean, it felt like eternity, minutes later came to my chest, but was wrapped in a swaddle. What I understand now from a doula's lens is how important skin to skin is. And I wish that I would have had that with my baby skin to skin because, one, it impacts breastfeeding, it impacts their transition earthside, and it also impacts your transition to becoming a mother and the hormonal transition and the mental and emotional transition and the physical transition and in the breastfeeding transition. And I had no idea about any of those things. And so all I wanted to do was see my baby in any way possible. But had I known that my baby could have come skin to skin with me immediately, I would have absolutely advocated for that so that my baby and I could have had a bond or just that physical connection immediately because of the benefits of immediate skin to skin. Now, of course, my son and I have an amazing connection and we still were able to breastfeed for a year. But I will say that having had that immediate skin to skin with my other 2, I noticed the difference in terms of breastfeeding specifically. The connection that I felt with my babies, I do feel like I did struggle. I was obviously so happy, but I did struggle a little bit more just in the whole aspect of like that immediate bonding connection with my son because of the mode of delivery, one, but then also I just had to wait in anticipation to see and meet my son. My husband saw my son before I did. And I really feel like had I advocated for a gentle cesarean, that I probably could have had that, but I just didn't know that the first time around. The second thing that I wish I would have known as a first time mama is that I did not have to rush to the hospital just because my water had broken. If y'all don't know about my first birth story, I'll just kind of give you a brief snippet of it, but I was 37 and 4 and I was at work and I had planned to work up until I went into labor because I didn't want to take any extra days. And so at 37 and 4, a couple of coworkers and I went out to lunch, and I was really kind of over being pregnant at that point. Obviously, I didn't know what I know now. I would have not tried to put an eviction notice on my baby that early on, but I was really trying to like get things going because I was full term and I was just so over being pregnant. Do not do this. Please do not do this. But we went out for lunch. I had the spiciest thing on the menu that I could have, and I had done a lot of walking the time, like the day or two before. And when I got back to the office, I was just working, going through the motions of all the things I need to do at work. And in a meeting, I stood up to do something on the screen projector to show kind of my presentation, and my water broke. And thankfully, I was in the room with like just 2 other women. So it was not a large group. Otherwise, that would have been really weird, probably uncomfortable for me at the moment, but my water broke. And I was like, oh, okay, that was a big gush. And that wasn't pee. I think my water just broke. I'm gonna go to the bathroom and check. I was not contracting at all. Long story short, they rushed me to my OB's office because he was like, let's make sure that your water broke. And he sent me straight to the hospital. I was not dilated. I was not contracting. And what I know now as a doula and having done this with so many women whose water breaks first, I didn't realize that going to the hospital was going to, 1, put me on a clock, and 2, force an induction that was not actually necessary, which made labor so much more difficult and introduced this cascade of interventions. And so had I known what I know now, I would have not rushed to the hospital because my water was clear, my water was odorless, and there was nothing wrong with my baby. My baby sounded good, I sounded good, so I wish that I would have gone home to allow myself to spontaneously go into labor, allow my contractions to start naturally at home, and then go into the hospital when I started to feel like they were intense enough where I needed to be near wherever I was going to deliver. Not doing that caused me to have Pitocin, made contractions way more painful than my contractions that I had with my second and my third, and obviously put me down this cascade of interventions, which led to an epidural that I wasn't planning for, and that epidural led me to an emergency C-section that I obviously wasn't planning for. So if I would have changed something, I would have, number 2, absolutely not rushed to the hospital just because my water had broken. Now, if you want to learn a little bit more about what to do when your water breaks and some things to kind of look out for, I will link a video down in the description below on what to do when your water breaks or if your water breaks first. The third thing that I would have done differently had I known what I know now is that I would have left the vernix on my baby. Now, again, I don't know if my baby had vernix or not because I did not see him before they went to the warmer, but I assume that there probably was at least a little bit of vernix because of the stage in my pregnancy that he was in. My other 2 babies did not have vernix, so not every baby is born with vernix, but I don't know if he was born with vernix or not. I wish that there would have been a chance for it to be left on because he was wiped, he was cleaned right when he went over to the warmer. They wrapped him up in a swaddle blanket, and then he was brought over to me. That is one of the biggest pieces of advice I have for new moms. If your baby is born with vernix, and even if they're not, really protect their skin because vernix is that thick cottage cheese like layer that your baby could be born with. And I like to think about it as this layer of like thick lotion. Our babies have been born or living in our stomachs, let me say, for 9 months. They've been living in water, and then they are born into this dry earth, cold earth, and things that are not really supportive for, what would be something born or living in water, aka a fish wouldn't really survive well, obviously outside of like how they breathe, but their skin would not survive well on the outside world. And obviously our babies are humans, and so they adjust to that. But in the immediate postpartum or in the immediate first days of their lives, we want to really protect that layer of skin that is finally being exposed to this dry air. And so the vernix, if your baby is born with vernix, is a protective layer that keeps and locks that moisture into their skin. And I know for a lot of us, it makes us think that, oh, our babies are dirty and we need to clean them, we need to wash them off. But think about the vernix like this thick lotion that you have to just constantly rub in order for it to lock in and seal. You're going to just moisturize your baby's skin by rubbing that vernix in. We don't need to wipe it off. We just need to rub it in. And within like 24 hours or so, you're probably not even going to see the vernix anymore. But you really should wipe it in and rub it in. I'm sorry, not wipe it in. Rub it into their skin, because that is going to really keep their skin moisturized. It can protect them from eczema later on down the line. It can protect them from dry skin later on down the line. And my son ended up having eczema for another reason that we're going to talk about. But I do think that if he did have vernix, or if any baby has vernix for that matter, definitely try to keep it in their skin or on their skin until their first bath. And that leads me to point number 4, which is I would have absolutely avoided the first bath at the hospital. As we just talked about, our babies have been living in water, amniotic fluid, that has kept their skin moisturized, not the dry water, the hard water, and the dry soap that we use here on the earth. Now, of course, you could be using different things. You could be using natural soaps, whatever the case is, but your baby skin is very delicate, and there's no reason to be giving your baby their first bath within 48 hours of being born. They're not dirty. Even if they were born with a little blood on them, a little poop on them, get a wipe and wipe it off. But they don't need a full-fledged bath because they're newborns. All they do is eat, sleep, and poop. They don't need a bath. And I have a video from our son's first bath, and I just remember like this inner feeling of being so like filled with guilt, but not really understanding why I was filled with guilt, because my son was like, for one, he was not enjoying this bath. And I know we see babies on the internet who are like swaddled up and their hair is getting brushed, and like, sure, that might be comfortable for a baby. Their hair is underwater, or like in the water, and they're brushing their hair. But like, I'm sorry, and maybe it's not like this at all hospitals, but the hospital that we went to, like they were rough, like rough with my baby. And I was like, man, like you need to chill out. Like you got this boy like bare naked on your forearm, like rubbing him down as if he didn't just come out the womb 6 hours ago, 24 hours ago, whatever time it was. And I just wouldn't do that. I didn't do that with number 2. I didn't do that with number 3. I have changed my philosophy, because what I've learned now as a doula, and what I've seen in understanding skin and understanding birth, understanding newborns, is that, again, the things that are going to be dirty on your baby's body are their genitals, and maybe a little bit of their neck rolls if they got some rolls. And both of those things are probably going to be cleaned multiple times a day. Obviously, you're changing their diaper and they're wiping their butts and their genitals multiple times a day, every couple of hours. So the things that are dirty are being cleaned multiple times a day. They might have a little neck roll. They might smell a little sour because they spit up and all the things. Take a wipe and wipe them off. It's not a big deal. But they don't need a full-fledged bath. And so I always tell my clients, and what my kind of rule of thumb is, since you can't even submerge them underwater after they're born because of their umbilical cord and needing that to fall off first, use that as your marker. That might be the earliest time to give your baby their first bath at home, was when their umbilical cord falls off. That is what we did with our second and with our third, because, you know, with the third, you're just trying to make it really. But he didn't get his first bath. The plan was for it to be after his umbilical cord fell off. It didn't end up happening until like 3 weeks after he was born, because we had 2 other kids. Life was busy. And we, again, were like wiping him down. A part of our nighttime routine is like wiping them down and lathering them with like coconut oil, or whatever oils, calendula oil, or whatever you use. But that was kind of a part of our nighttime routine. So like he was already getting cleaned, if you will, wipe downs sometimes, and then cleaned in his main areas like multiple times a day. So it really wasn't a priority for me. I could have gone longer, except I felt bad because I had given my daughter a bath earlier than him. So he got it around like 3.5 weeks or so. Like it just wasn't a part of like our priority at that point for our nighttime routine, trying to get 2 other toddlers to bed. And my other 2 did not have eczema. So I do feel like that first bath in the hospital and then continuing that when I got home really dried his skin out very early, and I just wouldn't have done that again. Now, the 5th and final thing that I would not do again as a first-time mama, and there's so many more things that I could have added to this list, but these are the top 5 for now from the motherhood lens, is that I would not have tried to dress my baby in all the cute little onesies and clothes in the first couple of weeks of life. we got so many different things, cute onesies, wanting to, what we're going to take him home in the hospital from, what we're going to take pictures in, and just like trying to get through all the clothes that people got us, because it was just like so cute to have your baby, your newborn, and all these clothes and dress them. And it was just kind of like, honestly, if you were like a little girl who loved putting clothes on dolls and like playing with dolls, it was almost like, oh my gosh, this is my real like baby doll, right? And you like have to dress them and all the things. You might not think about it like that, but I was like, I think there's this kind of, I don't know, we're kind of prepped as young girls to be excited about this. And there's so much to be excited about. But if you understand the physiological process of birth, and you also understand the importance of skin to skin with your baby, there's no need for clothes really, unless they're going to sleep, and really you don't even have to put them in clothes to go to sleep, or if they're leaving the house. There were so many different little cute outfits that I put my baby in, including at the hospital. Like, he was constantly in a onesie when we were in the hospital for those first couple of days, and that prevented us from having as much skin to skin as we should have had. And I do feel like that is one part of why my milk did take a little bit longer to come in. One, because of the C-section, then two, because we just didn't have a lot of skin to skin. And I would have changed that. There's really no need for my kid to be in clothes. And my second and my third kid were never in clothes, because I never had a shirt on. They never had a shirt on. We were always skin to skin. And that I really feel like impacted their development and growth, my healing and development, and all of the things that come along with breastfeeding and kind of transitioning into that maternal phase, transitioning into that postpartum phase, for baby transitioning earth side. Like, there's so many different benefits to skin. Oxygen levels, blood volume, heart rate, temperature. Like, there's so many things that are impacted from the time of birth, going immediately skin to skin, that I would have kept my baby out of clothes, no doubt, unless we were leaving. And I get that it's fine to like take these cute pictures, but after the pictures, I would have just taken the clothes off and let my baby be skin to skin, because they want to be held all the time anyways. So you might as well be as close to them physically as possible, because there's so many health benefits for you and for your baby. So that's definitely the thing that I would have changed the most. And also understanding, as you progress and as baby gets older, like, there's still so much power in skin to skin. So even if you didn't do that and you're a new mom watching right now and your baby is 6 weeks old and you're in that postpartum phase, there's nothing wrong with just tearing the shirt off and tearing the onesie off and going skin to skin, especially when your baby's sick, if your milk supply is low. Like, all of these things can be solved with skin to skin. And the clothes don't matter. So just keep that in mind as you're thinking through, like, how can I troubleshoot with some of these things? Skin to skin, always the number one option and number one solution, and then try the other things. But skin to skin is usually one of the easiest, quickest go-to methods that you can use to help with your process in transition and your babies. Okay, those are my top 5 tips of what I wish I would have known and what I wish I would have changed as a first-time mama that I know now as a doula and a mama of 3. And there's so many other things that I could have added to this list, but for right now, we're going to start with this part 1 video with these top 5 that a lot of us just are not even fully aware of. If you found this video helpful, make sure to hit the thumbs up button for me, so that I know if you like some of these more reflective, talking, motherhood sort of advice videos. I do want to do a few more of them in the future, but I want to know that you like them and that you enjoy them. If there's something else that you would have done differently as a first-time mama, drop them in the comments below so that other new moms or expecting mamas can look through that list and put that on their radar as they're preparing to welcome their baby earthside. Again, if you are not subscribed, make sure and hit that subscribe button and join our community. We would love to have you here, and we love sharing love with one another. That's it for me, y'all. I will see you on the next video.